I'll tell you why we're here today. I want to share a story with you. I want to talk about some important things for our country's future today as we set out on the next 5 weeks and the big decisions that Australians will make in 5 weeks from now. Our economy is stronger, as Josh said in the budget. Unemployment is lower. The budget is back in black. Absolutely. There are more people working today of working age than at any time in our history. We have the lowest level of welfare dependency of working age population that our country has seen in generations. This is all important stuff. But let me tell you why it's important. A strong economy is important because people matter. People matter, the economy matters. This is why we are so passionate as a political movement, the Liberals and the Nationals, because we know that for our people to be stronger, for our people to have the services they rely on, for our people to have the choices in life and to fulfil their great purpose and destiny in life that they choose, that is not chosen for them, then they need the environment of a strong economy to achieve that. And if you can't manage money, you can't run the country. That's the lesson, I think, of Australia's political history in this country, and it's the lesson, I think, as we've looked at economic policy and policy of all sorts down over the generations. I want to talk about some very special people today. I grew up in the suburbs of Sydney, and my parents, John and Marion, taught me, my brother and I, Alan, something very important. And that is, life is not about what you accumulate. Life is about what you contribute. And I think that's what we believe as Liberals. And over the course of their life, my parents just didn't say that to me and Alan as we were growing up. They demonstrated it in the life they lived. For 45 years, my parents, Marion and John, ran Boys and Girls Brigade at our local church. Every Thursday and Friday night of every school week for 45 years, my parents were there leading those young lives. They invested themselves in the youth of their community. And as generation passed and each generation came over those 45 years, there were a lot of camps, there were a lot of late nights, there was a lot of fundraising, there were a lot of calls in the middle of the night from parents who they knew that dad or mum would be able to go out and help in whatever situation. Dad was a police officer. And that's how they invested their life over 45 years. And what we're doing here today as a government, in my view, is I'm honouring their mission for young people. Of all the things we've achieved as a government over the last 5.5 years, the one that we are most proud of, and certainly I am most proud of, is that last year, more than 100,000 young Australians got a job. Jobs change lives. Jobs change communities. Jobs change nations. Inside every single Australian, every single young Australian is a great champion. And our country is always stronger when we understand the unique value and contribution that every single Australian has within them, and it's our job to bring it out. And that's what our policies are doing. 100,000 young people getting a job. That's 100,000 young people who now are more likely to live a life in employment than live a life dependent on welfare, where their choices are limited. When you've got a job, you've got choices. When you've got a job, you can look forward and plan for your future. When you've got a job, you can save and build a family, like Amanda over here and her lovely family. You can do that when you've got a job. And so when it comes to creating jobs, there are many things that we need to achieve. We need to ensure that Australians, when they get into work and when they go to find work, they have the skills to get them there. And today we're announcing that we're upping the plan that Josh announced in the budget. We're spending $530 million and we're spending $50 million specifically on opening 10 new jobs hubs in some of the hardest areas of unemployment around the country. See, since we've come into government, youth unemployment has fallen from 12.7 to 11.1%. When Labor were in power, they increased youth unemployment from 10% to 12.7%. When Labor was in power, 800 young people lost a job on average every month. And since we've been in government, well over 2,000 young people have been getting a job every single month. Now, the reason that's happening is because of a strong economy. The reason that is happening is because we're investing and enlivening small and family businesses in this country. The reason this is happening is we're investing in the infrastructure that is needed to bust congestion in our cities and to connect our markets to our farmers and our rural and regional areas and allowing them to grow and prosper as well. So we've had a plan for growing a stronger economy over the last 5.5 years, and we've been delivering on that plan. And that strong economy is bringing with it jobs and more jobs and more jobs for young people. But to ensure that stays the truth in the future, what we have to do is we've got to continue to invest in our young people. That's why, as a government, we've invested and increased our investment in public schools in this country by over 60%, 62% in fact. That's why the average per student funding over the decade will increase by 62%. That's why we've been investing in the skills development of our young people. And in that particular program which we announced in the budget, where we've got these 10 new hubs in difficult places, where we've got high levels of youth unemployment, like in Grafton and Maryborough and places like this, or in Gosford on the central coast of New South Wales and elsewhere, or in Shepparton down in Victoria. This is going to be a place where people can connect up with one of the other success stories of our government.
And that is where we'll be leaving ABC. If you wish to continue watching the Prime Minister speak, you can tune in on the ABC's news channel. Thank you for your company.
By getting touched in that program, by being brought through. 70% of those who went through the internship part of the Youth Path program found a job within 3 months. A real full-time job, a real job, a real job. That's what a strong economy does, because people matter, a strong economy matters. And because people matter, we want people in jobs and we want young people in jobs. Because I know as a former social services minister that if a young person isn't in a job by their early 20s, their risk of living a life on welfare skyrockets. And so it's so important that we give young people those opportunities to get into jobs. So you want to ask me about this election? It's about jobs, because people matter. It's about jobs because people matter. The other thing as a parent, and there are many parents here today, and when we're talking about young people, we're not just talking to young people. We're talking about the parents of young people, the aunties and uncles of young people. We're talking to the grandparents of young people. All of us want a better future for young people in this country. And we want them to be able to be resilient, because it's tough today. We know it's hard for young people today. There are so many more pressures for them to confront these days than were the case previously. So many other different influences, so many other threats. And we know we need to invest in our young people to ensure that they can be resilient and face these challenges. One of the things we did most recently is we committed $70 million to support young people with eating disorders in this country. $70 million to provide the services and facilities in particular, but on top of that to make sure that eating disorders were recognised as a treatable condition under Medicare, to ensure that GPs and others were able to use the Medicare system to support people with eating disorders in this country. And we're recognising it and we're acknowledging it. And in the budget, we said we were going to take on one of the biggest challenges that I think our country faces, and that is combating the challenge of youth suicide in this country and youth mental health. Yesterday I was with Jenny and we were at a Headspace in Ashfield with Dr. Fiona Martin, our candidate for Reid. And we met with young people there who have been working in the Headspace network, and we announced that our package to confront and combat youth suicide is now $503.1 million, and that includes expanding our Headspace centres by 30 across the country. 20 at least of those will be in rural and regional areas across Australia. And we'll be reaching out to young people to ensure that they know this very important fact, that they are not alone, that Australia loves and cares for its young people, combating the difficulties and challenges and anxieties of growing up, and the questions and the uncertainties and the pressures. And we're providing the facilities and services to ensure that our young people know that they have hope in a beautiful and long life and hope for their future. Youth suicide, more than 400 young people taking their own lives each year, 428 in the most recent years of statistics. It's a curse on our country, but it's a curse we can break. It's a curse we must beat. And the reason we can go and invest over $500 million in combating youth suicide in this country is because we are committed to having a strong economy. See, that's the key. Unless you have a strong economy, unless you can manage money, then you can say all sorts of things, but you can't deliver on the ground. And so whether it is, of course, challenging the difficulties of youth suicide and youth mental health around the country, or indeed whether it's eating disorders, or indeed whether it's the further challenges they face with online bullying and bullying in schools. And we've established the first e-safety commissioner. We've put in place some $100 million worth of investments, which Peter Dutton knows all about, who's been a champion against those who seek to be sexual predators on children. Peter has done an extraordinary job in leading the charge in our fight against those who would steal the innocence of our children. So, you know, if you care about families, if you care about young people, if they're at the centre of what you're about, well, you protect them and you throw your arms around them. So it's whether it's their mental health condition and building their resilience from the youngest of ages, protecting them from those who would seek to bully and intimidate them, and in the worst of all cases, steal their innocence from them in a violent and aggressive way. This is what we're doing as a government to support our young people as they face the challenges of the future. But our young people, you know, they also, and they deserve this, they deserve, of course, not to have the legacy of debt. They deserve not to have our generation spend their future on our standard of living, but in turn to do the exact opposite and to set them up for success. To not burden them with higher taxes and not burden them with opportunities being denied them because of an economy which is weighed down. They deserve to have hope for their future. They deserve to have hope, and they deserve to ensure that we are focusing on the issues that concern them, particularly about their future. And I'll come more to the economy again in a sec. But of course we have to take action on climate change. And we are taking action on climate change. I can tell you that it wasn't just a budget deficit that we encountered when we came to government in 2013. We came into government and faced a climate deficit when we came to government. And Josh knows all about this. He served as an Environment Minister. When we came to government to meet our Kyoto 2020 targets, we were more than 700 million tonnes behind the game when it came to meeting our Kyoto targets. And in the space of that last 5.5 years, we have turned that around, and we will now beat those Kyoto 2020 targets by 369 million tonnes. That is a 1.1 billion tonne turnaround on meeting our climate commitments. And in this budget, Josh, there's $100 million to further strengthen our environment when it comes to local environmental works. And Trevor Evans knows all about the great works we do on the ground with our Communities Environment Program. So don't let it be said that the Liberal and National parties aren't investing in the future of our environment. We are. See, we just don't talk about it. We get it done. And the other thing we know that to take action on climate change doesn't mean you've got to take your economy out either at the same time. You don't have to do that. We need to tell Australians that you don't have to choose between your economy and your environment. You don't have to choose between your job and the environment. You don't have to choose between your car and the environment. You can have all of these things, and we can't allow Australians to be lulled into that lie which says you can't, because you can, because we are, because that's exactly what we're doing. And that strong economy is the reason why we'll be investing $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion to ensure we are protecting the future of our environment. And even beyond that, when it comes to we're investing in key areas like the Great Barrier Reef, which is a livelihood as well as a great natural asset for our nation. And we will continue to do that, whether it's on the environment or in other areas, in the healthcare of our young people and the education of our young people. But the other thing I think we want for Australians who are young for their future is we want them to be full of aspiration. We're the party of aspiration. We're the parties of aspiration, I should say, Larry. The Liberal and Nationals, we are the parties of aspiration. We understand the reason our economy is strong is because of the hard work and effort of every single Australian. That's why the budget's back in the black, because Australians have worked hard. And you know, you've got to set the right conditions for that. And one of the keys to that is ensure that we think Australians should keep more of what they earn. We think Australians that the harder you work and the better you do, then you should be able to get on with it. You should be able to get on with it. And this is, I think, one of the great big fault lines in this election. See, as Liberals and Nationals, we believe that you don't have to hold anyone down to lift anyone up. We believe all Australians can be lifted up, and the harder all Australians work, then the better they'll do, and they won't be held back under the policies of a Liberal Nationals government. But it's true. This is why we have a plan to reduce taxes on Australians, to reduce taxes on small and family businesses. And particularly if you're a young person. I remember when I came out of university and I entered the decade of Labor's recession. And I remember 1 million people being out of work. 1 in 2 people, in fact more than that, who are voting at this election will never have experienced a recession during their working life. But I remember the last one. I remember 1 million people out of work. People in this room know about 18% interest rates and the recession we had to have under Labor. God forbid we would ever have another recession. You know, there are some who say, oh, you know, what people need is a good recession to teach them a few things. I don't agree with them. I don't want my children to ever have to live through a recession. But I can tell you, if you stick to the policies of the Liberal and Nationals, then that is the best defence against a recession than you can ever think of. And the reason for that is because we are continually unleashing the unbridled passion and spirit and hard work and enterprise of the Australian people. Labor wants to put a $387 billion tax bomb on the Australian economy. This will hold Australians back. It'll hold these young people back. It'll hold their future back. It'll weigh them down. How on earth anyone can think putting that much debt on an economy as we go into the uncertain times which Josh and Matthias have spoken about so often, how we think that is going to make our economy more resilient by increasing the taxes on your housing, by increasing the taxes on retirees who have worked hard all of their lives, by increasing the taxes on your investments, on what you invest in your superannuation and the contributions that you make, increasing the taxes on pretty much everything that moves when it comes to the reckless abatement targets that the Labor Party have put in place that will cost Australians their wages of some $9,000 a year, putting up the price of everything from the car you'd like to buy which you probably won't be allowed to under Bill Shorten, or from what you put in your kids' lunchbox and all the rest of it. I mean, their policies are designed to raise prices. So if you're concerned about cost of living, the answer is not higher taxes. If you're concerned about cost of living, which I am, then the answer is not in reckless abatement targets, just to rise the cost of living. If you're concerned about cost of living, what you're interested in is an economy that is strong. Now, we have the runs on the boards when it comes to that, but more importantly, we have the plans to keep it going in that direction. It's the plans for the future of our economy that Australians can rely on. Today, we have announced that of the 1.25 million jobs that we will create over the next 5 years, 1 in 5 of those jobs will be for young Australians. 250,000 jobs for young Australians. That's what a strong economy does. That's what a strong economy does. 250,000 jobs for young Australians because people matter. And that's why a strong economy matters. And that's why having the policies that create that stronger economy, that's why that matters. So as we go forward now, over the next 5 weeks, there is a big decision that the Australian people will be weighing up over the next 5 weeks. There will be a choice between a government, a Liberal Nationals government, that has delivered a strong economy and has a plan to continue to deliver a strong economy, and a Labor government that will deliver a weak economy, saddled down by policies that will slow the growth of our economy. There is the choice between a Liberal Nationals government that stands for lower taxes, that will reduce the tax burden on the entire economy, or a Labor government, a Bill Shorten government, that will result in $387 billion of higher taxes that will weigh down the Australian economy. There is the choice between the Liberal and Nationals government that I lead, that has proven that we know how to manage money and has got the budget back in the black. It has taken us some 10 years and more to get back to where we were when the Howard Costello government left office. 10, 12 years now to be back. We're in a position where Josh could hand down a budget surplus for the first time since then. So a choice between a Liberal Nationals government that has demonstrated, proven, has the runs on the board for how to manage money, and a Bill Shorten Labor government who all Australians know Labor doesn't know how to manage money. And if you can't manage money, you can't run the country. If you can't manage money, you can't run a health system. If you can't manage money, you can't run an education system. If you can't manage money, you can't create jobs for young people. If you can't manage money, you can't combat youth suicide. You can't go out there and change the lives for Australians living with disabilities. You can't go out there and stand with parents while they are working to try and change the life of their kids who are struggling with eating disorders. You can't go out there and actually make the environment the beautiful thing we want it to be for everybody in this country. If you can't manage money, then you can't run the country. So, friends, that's the choice. It's an important choice. And as we launched into this election, I made a very simple point. The decision Australians will make in 5 weeks, it won't just determine the next 3 years, it will determine the next decade that Australians live in. It'll determine the economy Australians live in for the next decade. Let's not let happen what happened last time when Labor came in 2007. They lost control of the budget, they lost control of the borders, they lost control of the economy. And it's taken us more than a decade to get back to then. You vote Labor once, you'll pay for it for more than a decade. That's the lesson of Australian political and government history. And so that's why, friends, we have a big fight ahead of us, a very big fight ahead of us. But I can tell you, my team, all around the country, we're up for this. We're so up for this because we know what's at stake. Yes, it's the future for all Australians, But the Australians I'm thinking of most, I've got to tell you, are these Australians, young Australians. Young Australians. And for these young Australians, I'm making this pledge that we will build our economy to secure your future because people matter. Thank you very much.
Authorised A. Hurst, Liberal Party, Canberra.